I'm going to give you 6 must-haves that you have to consider when you are buying an investment property. So when you either before you buy, or if you already bought an investment property and you're wondering, how much money do I need to manage this investment property, right? Like you already looking past purchasing, now I need to kind of hold it, right? The whole idea is to hold and get that capital gain or get the yield, so you can actually get a return on your investment. So what do you need to consider? Well, one of the things, I'm going to give you 6 must-haves, right? There might be some other things, but these ones you have to make sure you have in your spending plan, and making sure you're considering these things. If you don't, the problem is going to become, you're going to have a cash flow nightmare later on, right? So you need to really make sure that you're looking at these and controlling the risk of these 6 must-haves. And also, really the time to be looking at these things are right in the beginning, right? Right before you even purchase, you should look at these 6 must-haves into your spending plan and look at affordability for this property, and if you can hold it for as long as you plan to hold it, to make sure you get that return on investment. Before we go on, my name is Jackie Elias. I'm the FutureBound CEO, where we help you get mortgage and financially free. Not too much about me. I'm going to go on to these 6 must-haves. Now, the first thing is you need to consider property management, right? Property management is a must-have. You have to have it, whether you get a property manager to do it or you do it yourself. Now, if you're considering doing it yourself, I would really ask you to reconsider, because it's actually a full-time job, which is why we have property managers who do it as a full-time job. It can get really time consuming. So you might say, oh, I don't need to put any money aside for that, but it will cost you in time, which means it'll cost you in money, especially if you have a full-time job. So consider that. Property managers are about 8%, and a good one of 8% of the rent that you'll be receiving from your tenant. And so it's well worth it if you are going to have a good one who's going to take care of, and the ease and the peace of mind that they can just handle the issues with the tenant. It's no secret that dealing with tenants is one of the big headaches for landlords, and you are now a landlord. And so all of the laws and everything that are constantly changing, they're keeping up with that and making sure that you're covered and covering the risk of your investment. So we really suggest getting a property manager to do that. It's only 8% of the rent. The other thing is rates. Obviously, you need to consider how much rates are going to be. A good round figure is about $2,500 per year. It obviously is going to be more or less based on where you're living. So just check out the rates to your local council. Insurance is another one. You do need to have, obviously you need to have home insurance, and the other one is landlord insurance, and any insurances that might increase because now you have more assets. You might want to cover more life or more, other things that based on like your home and contents of that particular, if it's furnished, all of these things. Obviously, when it's a rental property, you need to consider landlord insurance for that. That's about $1,500 a year. Obviously get a quote for what might work for your budget. Talk to an insurance advisor who can look at your situation more specifically. But yeah, a good round figure is at $1,500. The other thing that you must have when you're looking at your spending plan for your investment property is vacancies, right? In a perfect world, you would always have a tenant in there, but things happen, and unexpectedly you might end up with a vacancy. And so consider about 2 weeks of the rent when you get that valuation for your rental evaluation. Then look at 2 weeks of that, setting aside for possible vacancies. Now, if you are kind of like, ooh, I want to make sure I'm completely covered, obviously you can do more weeks than that. You can do 4 weeks for vacancies, new builds. If you're doing a new build investment property, a rental property, it's likely you won't have too many vacancies, but the 2 weeks is a standard. The other thing is repairs and maintenance. Now, with new builds, obviously, you're getting a new house. So there's really not much to repair, really not much for maintenance. But if you're getting existing property, for sure, you need to really do an assessment and look at what needs to be fixed up. Now, I'm not talking about your investment to try to improve the value of the home, okay? I'm not talking about renovations. I'm talking about if something breaks and you need to get someone in to fix it. So look at the age of your home and the different major appliances that are already in there, like your hot water cylinder and all those kinds of things that can break down, and adjust and put some money aside accordingly. A good round figure, particularly if you have a new build, is $1,000 a year. It could be more depending on the age of the home and the different major appliances and structural things that you have going on in your home. The last thing to consider, the sixth must-have to consider, is if you need to put some money into the property ongoing because you are in negative yields, which means that you have the ongoing expenses for the investment property are not covered by the rent. So the mortgage repayments, the rates, and the insurances are not covered by the rent that you're getting every week. So you need to put some money from your budget into that property. Okay, so consider that. Now that kind of varies from situation to situation. Obviously, you can look at, hey, look, if we're thinking that it might be negative in the beginning, maybe we need to put more cash into the property when we purchase it, so that makes the repayments lower. There are different things that you can do to make sure that the repayments are more affordable and will then get covered. Or if you're saying, hey, look, we have a spare $100 a week, we can put into our rental property until the value goes up, and then the amount that we can increase the rent goes up, and then it'll cover it, So it's up to you, it's case by case, but look at that. That's something that you must have. So those are the 6 must-haves that you need to consider when you are doing your spending plan for your investment property, and how can you manage it and make sure that your cash flow is affordable. So if you are saying, hey, look, I actually really need to look at these things. I need someone to sit down with me, book a 15-minute chat. We are able to sit down, look at your situation, look at your owner-occupied mortgage, look at your investment property mortgage, make sure everything is set up the way that is going to make sure it works best for your financial goals and your cash flow and the needs that you have for investment. And we're able to sit down and just help you kind of think through, make sure that you have your spending plan together for your investment property. So book that 15-minute chat. We do get very full, so make sure you book that now. Get it in sooner rather than later. We know that inflation is crazy and interest rates are going crazy, and cash flow is a major issue right now. So make sure that you are doing all that you can to gain back that control. Talk to you soon.
For more financial tips, advice, and education, subscribe to us on YouTube, and don't forget to hit that notification bell.